Hello, welcome everybody. Here we are for Facebook Live on understanding and working with the situation around having emotionally unavailable parents. So emotionally unavailable or immature parents and what that's like. So we're going to talk about what that might be like if that's been your experience, how you responded to that experience, and how to proceed now. Just checking my lighting here. So good to see you here. And when you do arrive, please say hello, say where you're from. It's always fun to see where people are joining us from and who shows up. And I love interacting with you. So feel free to ask any questions and make comments as we go. So emotionally unavailable parents and what that might be like, and I'm going to share a little bit about what the parents might be like. How do you know if that's been your situation? You probably do know, but here's some identifying factors. Emotionally unavailable parents might have been very preoccupied with themselves. They may not have been very attentive to you and your needs, not knowing how to tune into you and be sensitive to you, to really sense when you're upset, what you might need. This is called attunement, when someone can tune into your expression, your energy, your feelings, and tend to you. And so emotionally unavailable or immature parents wouldn't be able to do that very well. They may be afraid of emotional expressions. They may be scared of intimacy and deeper connection. They may discount feelings, decide that they're unimportant. And they're probably very uncomfortable with their own feelings and needs. So therefore, they wouldn't know how to hold space for yours or other children or anybody's. And so anyone else's expression of feelings or needs may be scary to them. They may shut down or they may get angry in the face of that. And so let's see, they may also not know how to be empathic or empathetic. I'm often very clear on those differences. Empathetic. So they may not know how to show empathy for you, for your feelings of grief or sadness or upset or discontent, anger, your pain, your loneliness. So they just might feel, like I say in the title of this live, they might be totally unavailable. You might feel that they're unavailable. You might experience that for yourself. So those of you who are here, hi, there's Tamara and Shelly. Good to see you both. Welcome. And you can say where you're from if you're willing. Got lots of Tamaras in the group, I've noticed. But I know who you are, so hi. And unfortunately, my notes are not on the same screen, so I'm just doing this back and forth today. So now let's look at, well, actually, what I'd love to hear from those of you who are here is if that's familiar to you. So if it is, say yes or raise a hand in the comment section, and maybe even specifically share what part of that feels most familiar. And was it a mother, a father, or both parents? I work with many clients who come to me for support around this. They may not actually come for support around this directly because what they're dealing with more is difficulty in their current relationships with a loved one or at work. But it comes out in our work together that that their parents weren't really available for them. So I had a client today who was talking about this, whose parents weren't able to really sense what she needed in her education, who weren't able to, really tend to her maturation, and there was a lot of neglect. She felt like they didn't get her, and they gave her sibling more attention than they gave her. So I'm going to see what you have to say in the comment section about that. Hi from Humboldt. Yes. Okay, Susan, thank you. Good to see you from your father, not your mother. Yeah. And it's always great when you have at least one parent who is available for you. So you can really celebrate that if you had at least one parent or somebody else in your life. So as I was talking about with someone earlier today, the parent didn't get her, but she had an aunt who did. And so that's like, oh, what a relief when you have at least somebody who's tending to you, who gets what you need, and who can support you in the ways you need it to be supported. So you can reflect on that for yourself and feel free to share in the comments, who was there for you. If it wasn't your parent, did you have an older sibling or an aunt or uncle or a grandparent who really got you and you felt like, was a great support system? Maybe it was a teacher, right? So sometimes we have what we call a resource, somebody who does show up in our lives and kind of picks up the pieces when our parents aren't doing ideally what they should be doing. Yes, Shelley, only one parent, your mother. Yeah, I'm glad you're here. So our responses to this as children would be likely a lot of loneliness and sadness, because of the feeling that you're not getting what you need. You're not getting, like I said, tended to or understood. I like the word gotten, right? You're not getting gotten. You're not getting seen. And so what you might do, especially if your parent has a strong reaction to your emotional expression, right? Children can have big emotional expressions. They're not very inhibited. You might learn to shut down your emotions because it wasn't safe for you to express them. You may have gotten punished for being expressive, or you may have gotten neglected for being expressive, right? Your parent may have just like disappeared because they didn't know how to handle your emotional expression. Other things that might happen for you if you didn't get your attention that you needed, especially positive attention from your parents, would be that you might shut yourself down emotionally completely. You might kind of wall up. You might kind of contract internally into depression, sadness. Like I said, a loneliness would be connected to that. You might have thoughts like there's something wrong with me, or they don't care about me, they don't love me, I don't matter, these kinds of thoughts. So raise a hand or put a comment in the comment section if any of that is familiar for you. I'll come back to that in a moment. This could also be the cause of anxiety, right? If you're feeling missed, if you're feeling neglected, you could feel anxious about that because you don't know if you're going to get what you need. And ultimately, later in life, there are other repercussions, but just to talk about how we might respond as children, those are some of the responses. And it could be, that you got really angry and had a lot of outbursts, and like as a way to try to get more attention. So that could be another response. And another response might be that you got very attuned to other people's needs. We've talked about this here before. But if you're not getting what you need, a way to stay connected with your parents or whoever was your caregiver might be to get really attentive to their needs. And so you would become the mother's little helper and like the little grown-up, right, who's cooking the dinner and taking care of them when they're sick and this type of thing. So you may grow up too quickly, for what's good for you, because you step into this helper role to at least feel useful, to feel like that you're needed, right? Because that's better than feeling neglected or feeling that you don't matter or like you're not even being seen. So I'm coming back to see what your responses are, and I'm not seeing any more right now. Sometimes they don't show up even if they are here, but I'd love to hear from you, those of you who are here and want to share anything about your own experience around that. So if you were someone who grew up too quickly, like someone I was talking to earlier today, like I said, you could be a caregiver. You may start getting jobs early to get out of the household, to avoid the pain of being missed and sort of forgotten or neglected or lonely. You may leave home early. You may, become sexually active early, get into a marriage young, start having children at a young age, all to kind of, continue like getting out of the situation that was so painful and getting, like getting to your adulthood so you can move on with what you want in your life. But of course, what happens to us in childhood can often be repeated in adulthood, meaning that when we have a familiar situation in childhood, we're used to not getting understood. We're used to people yelling at us. We're used to abuse. We're used to being missed or, criticized. Then we often repeat the cycle in our adult relationships. Not consciously, of course. No one wants to be criticized or wants to feel lonely, but because that felt like love, because that was all you knew as love, because that felt like home, it just might be what you do later in life in your next, in your romantic relationships, at least for a while, until you get to a point where you're like, something's not right. And, often over time as we age, anxiety can accumulate more in the system. Our nervous systems can get more and more out of balance, so that as we get older, we have less tolerance for like imbalances in our body and misalignments in our lives. So often later in life, if we haven't kind of done the repair work, is when we might start seeking more support to help us deal with what feels so out of alignment in our lives. And I'm going to come back and see what you have to say about that. Oh, lots of sadness, loneliness, and neglect felt. Thanks for sharing that, Shelley. Hi, Abigail. Helper role. Yes, as the oldest child of 4 with a single mother. Oh, wow. Wow, that's a lot. Your words resonate powerfully. I definitely felt like I wasn't listened to, cared for, or intently enough. Thank you for sharing that, and I'm very sorry that happened to you. That's a lot to take on as a child. You stepped into a parental role, it sounds like, because your mother was single and 4 kids, that's a lot. So you can be proud of yourself for the strength that it took to do that, and also know that there is some healing to do if you have not yet done it around what that meant for you to do that. So we can get ourselves into these new relationships, like I said, where we're being, again, like our partner might be somebody who shuts down a lot, who criticizes our emotions, who is scared of our emotions and leaves the room, just cannot hold space for sadness or pain or grief or anger, right? And so if that's happening to you, you're going to feel likely what you felt as a child, which can be deep sadness or more anger for, yet again, like somebody who doesn't get you, who's not meeting you the way you want to be met. And I just really want to say that I hear you and I see you if that's happening for you, and I know how hard that can be, because it's super painful when you're just not getting the kind of connection that you long for. We all long for deep connection. We all long to have intimacy, to be understood and gotten by someone on a deep level. And so I think we're always seeking that if we don't have it. And so how painful that is when you're, you think you're going to get it, and then again, you're getting like this conflict and this kind of, disconnect that happens. So often what happens, I was sharing in my women's group the other night, that when we have a lot of anger on the surface, we easily get irritated and annoyed and aggressive, impatient, we just lash out easily. That can mean, that there's been a lot of anger for a good reason in our lives, because we got hurt, because we didn't get what we needed. But often too, I want to say, and I don't know if I think I posted this cartoon here in this group, but but I'll do it again either way. And the cartoon shows someone with a mask that says anger, and when they pull up the mask, it says grief or sadness underneath. And so often that is the case if we just are easily outbursting with anger, if it's not from a more shock-oriented trauma where we didn't get to kind of move through our nervous system responses, which is one reason that might happen. Another reason is that there's actually a lot of deep grief and sadness for the loss of the childhood that you didn't have, you know, the pain of what you didn't get, how you didn't get your needs met, how you didn't get seen and held in the ways you needed to. There can be a lot of unexpressed and unresolved grief about that. And so that's what needs to be explored if you want to do the deeper healing here, so that you're not repeating the relationship cycle in your adult life, so that you're not just kind of overly reactive with anger all the time, or vice versa with sadness all the time and missing the anger that might be necessary. There needs to be some emotional work to explore your feelings and to make space for your feelings and to understand and allow for your feelings, especially because they weren't allowed most likely if you had unavailable parents. So hopefully that's making sense. I'm going to pop back in to see what you all have to say. Yes, first marriage to someone unavailable emotionally. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Susan. I'm sure not uncommon, and congrats for getting out of the marriage. So also really important, not only that we validate our emotions, our feelings, but that we also validate our needs, because we all have needs. And especially if you were that person who turned into mother's little helper and I don't have any needs because I'm just going to attend to everybody else's, because that's much safer than feeling the pain of not getting my needs met. So if that was you, then now is the time to honor your own needs and really value them and seek getting your needs met, because we all have needs that deserve to get met. So you want to do your inner work so that when you come into a relationship, if you're not already in one, that you actually find a healthy relationship instead of one that repeats your childhood pattern. A healthy relationship where you are getting seen and met, where you're getting your needs are valued and understood, your emotions are accepted and not shunned or ridiculed or criticized or completely avoided. So that's the gist of what I wanted to say. So if there's no other comments, I'm going to pop back in and see what you have to say. Okay, we do have a little bit more. I have chosen emotionally unavailable partners in the past. I would love to change that pattern. Yes, Shelley, I appreciate you saying that and owning that, and I would love that for you. Excuse me. Two, I have a window open, and the temperature is cooling down. Excuse me. One more, maybe. Excuse me. I hope that wasn't too loud in the mic. Yeah, it's really important work to change this pattern, because you can just stay lonely, stay unsatisfied. You can keep going with the feelings like nobody likes me, nobody gets me, nobody wants me, and that's just so painful. We all are worthy of love. We all are worthy of positive attention and connection and intimacy. And so I, put a stake in the ground for each and every one of you to experience that deep satisfaction and fulfillment in your relationships. Bless you. Thank you. Oh, bless you for the sneeze. Thank you. Yes, I got some bless yous. Appreciate it. Okay, so let's see if you have any more comments or questions, and otherwise we will wrap it up here in a moment. So I'll just do a quick wrap up, which is we were talking about what your parents might have been like if they were emotionally immature or unavailable, which is kind of similar. A kind of a catch-all term for some of what I shared would be narcissistic. There's more depth to that term that I'm not going into here, but narcissistic people are generally very preoccupied and not very attentive to others' needs. So that's what we were talking about around what your parents might have been like, and also avoiding intimacy and not knowing how to be intimate. And just to say, you know, we may have a lot of anger towards our parents for that, and that would be totally understandable. And I want to validate that if you feel angry at your parents for not knowing how to tend to you. And sometimes we don't allow ourselves to be angry at our parents because it feels too scary to do so. And you tell yourself, oh, you know, I understand, and they had their tough childhood, and all of that might be true. But I just want to say there's a place for anger towards your parents when they didn't know how to fulfill your needs. And not that, you know, they're bad people. They had their own trauma probably that they were navigating and not knowing how, and didn't have the skills and all that stuff. But still, just because you're angry at someone doesn't mean you think they're bad people. So there's a place for anger in our relationships. We get angry when we aren't getting our needs met, when we aren't getting what we want. And so I just want to say that's okay if you feel that. And if you never have allowed yourself to feel that, I want to encourage you to get in touch with that. And so we talked about what your parents might have been like and what your response might have been like. The loneliness, the shutting down, the sadness, depression, how you might have responded to not getting met emotionally. And so if you're just joining now, be sure to go back and listen to more of the details. And I do want to say, as I wrap up here, that today is October 15th. Happens to be my mother's birthday. Happy birthday. And also, I'm in the beginning of a women's coaching group, and I'm offering this group for women who have desire to go deeper and get more support around their inner life and relationships, who would like to really unwind the patterns that get in the way of creating healthy intimacy and connection and joy in their lives. And part of what's great about the group is there's lots of other awesome women there who are wise and have different experiences than I do, so we support and nurture each other through our life experiences. And we also get one another and feel more gotten as we hear other people's stories and recognize, you know, oh, I'm actually more like you than I thought. I'm maybe not so alone in my suffering. So it can be very healing to be in a support group like that. And also I'm doing a lot of teaching around how to have healthy relationships, around your self-esteem, and around healthy boundaries, and around getting your needs met, and healthy communication, and emotional expression, and understanding of emotions. So there's a lot of juicy topics in the group. So if you're interested, there's still a spot or two available. And I'm going to put a link in the comments for you to get in touch with me and ask for a time to talk about it, and we can look at what's going on for you and whether the group is actually a good fit. And just know that the group is meeting 2 Tuesdays a month at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So if that's just totally not a good time for you because it's 3 in the morning or wherever you are, you know, then I apologize about that. And there may be another time where I do a group like at noon for other folks on other time zones. But right now, that's when the group is happening, just so you know. So you don't, you know, sign up for a session and then it's totally not going to work for you. So I'm going to put the link to sign up for a session with me in the comment section right now. And again, I am still around if you do want to ask a question or make a comment. And here comes the link now for that, what I call the relationship breakthrough session. And it's really a juicy session for you to look at, you know, where you're stuck, where you're challenged, and also where you want to be, you know, what you're hoping for. And I can help you kind of get a clear path from where you are to where you want to be. And we can talk about working together, and there's absolutely no pressure to do more work together. My commitment is to give you some value in the session. And just so you know, the group is something that I do offer to make my work more available to more people. It's more affordable than working one-on-one. So that's part of why I like to offer the group. So if you're interested in taking your work to the next level and opening your heart more and feeling more ease and joy in your life, then hit me up for a session. And just know there's not a lot of times on my calendar right now. I've put my calendar in the link in the comments, but my spots are pretty limited. I've got a lot going on, so only sign up, if you're really serious about wanting support, and otherwise you can leave those spots for others, or let me know if you're really serious and you don't find a time that works for you, and I'd be happy to kind of work something out, see if we can find a time that's not on the calendar. Okay. Great, Tamara. Maybe in the future would be awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me tonight, and feel free to keep leaving comments even if you're watching the replays, and let me know how I can support you further. And I look forward to seeing you again. I do these lives every Thursday evening at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, which is 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And thanks for being here. Good night for now.